The hospice smelled like antiseptic and failed dreams. A Christmas-themed air freshener hung from the IV stand, swaying with Albert's mechanical wheezing. It smelled like cinnamon and regret. The fluorescent lights hummed, drowning out the slow drip of morphine. He was the man who never amounted to anything. The trophyless disappointment. If life was a race, he was the guy who tripped in the first 10 feet and never got back up. 35 years old, still renting, and his biggest contribution to society was a viral video of him accidentally setting fire to a microwave burrito. That was him, the proud owner of a pile of unwashed dishes and a credit score so low it could run for public office. He sat slouched in the corner, watching his father struggle to breathe, like he was trying to suck down a stubborn milkshake. Albert's father was huge, round face, round belly, round everything. A human snowman melted into a hospice bed. The kind of man who built his whole life on being likable. For 30 years, he had been Santa Claus at the mall. Not just any Santa, though. He was the Santa, the one people drove 4 counties over to see. His face still appeared on Christmas cards across the Midwest. A local legend, a walking jolly Norman Rockwell painting. And he was the guy who gave his father a $10 Amazon gift card for Christmas. He liked to think that's why Albert's father was dying, the look he gave when he opened it. His father beckoned him closer, his hands shaking like a rusty wind-up toy. "Come here, kiddo." "Yeah, sure," he said, dragging the chair closer. It screeched against the linoleum, like its legs were fighting the floor. "What is it this time? Another story about how you single-handedly saved Christmas at the mall in '93? His father's laugh came out like a wheeze caught in a blender. Then he stopped, his face turned deadly serious, eyes boring into his son's. "I've got a confession, kiddo. Something big." He leaned back. "Here we go again." "Oh, great. Did you save Christmas again?" His father laughed and shook his head. His smile, faint but still there, cracked like old plaster. Listen to me, kiddo. I killed people. I was a hitman." The words hit him like a sucker punch to the ribs. His father's eyes twinkled with something far from Christmas cheer. For a second, he couldn't breathe. Not because he believed him, but because part of him wanted to. Like even in death, Albert's father had to be bigger than life. Then the ridiculousness hit him and he laughed. Hard, too hard. "Jesus, Dad, did the morphine knock your last screw loose? You don't think a guy with fake snow in his eyebrows could carry out a clean kill, do you?" His father's grin spread like butter on burnt toast, his cheeks wobbling like he was auditioning for Jell-O's next ad campaign. He stared. Words felt stuck somewhere between his brain and his tongue, like traffic on the I-5 during rush hour. He had a list of things he never expected to hear from his father. "I love you. I'm proud of you. There's a secret trust fund hidden in the walls. But this took the cake, and then assassinated the baker." "You're messing with me," he finally managed. "Is this one of those morphine fever dreams? Should I call the nurse?" "Blink once for yes." His father coughed out a laugh, deep and phlegmy, shaking his head. "No joke, I was good at it too. Seasonal work was the perfect cover. Everyone sees Santa as a big harmless teddy bear. No one suspects Santa Claus of carrying a 9mm Glock." He blinked, hard. His father had lost it. The man had gone off the deep end, dragging the Christmas tree, the reindeer, and the inflatable snowman with him. "I had a code," his father said, his voice dropping to a low rasp like he was auditioning for The Godfather. "Never moms, never kids, and no one who liked Christmas." He rubbed his temples. "So you're telling me all those business trips to Reno weren't about fixing mall contracts?" "Nope." His father popped the P like he was proud. "They were about fixing people. Your old man was a regular Mr. Clean. And you expect me to believe this?" His father leaned forward, a Herculean effort given his state. "Remember the upstairs neighbor at our old place? The guy who played techno at 2 a.m.? He nodded slowly, stomach sinking. "You said he moved." "I moved him." His father's grin widened. "To a landfill. Permanently." "You're not serious," he whispered, but his voice cracked. "Oh God," his father was serious. "Go to my apartment and look for a box labeled Santa's Naughty List. Top shelf of my closet. See for yourself." He was halfway to the door when the heart monitor gave up, the line going flat like it was tired of pretending his father had time left. His father's apartment was a shrine to Christmas, not the classy, Pottery Barn kind of Christmas. This was the Walmart on clearance kind. Everywhere you looked, there was a red and green assault on the senses. Tinsel dangled like garish cobwebs. A nutcracker army lined the windowsill, their paint chipped like they'd been through a war. Fake snow dusted every surface, not sprinkled but dumped, like his father had been trying to recreate a blizzard indoors. He kicked a pile of it near the couch. It puffed up, glittering. The closet, though, that's where things got creepy. Rows of Santa suits hung in perfect order, sorted by decade. The 80s suits were polyester atrocities, faded red like tomato soup left in the sun. The newer ones were lush, rich velvets. There was even a Santa pimp cane leaning in the corner, because of course there was, in the smell. That weird mothball meets candy cane funk. It clung to his clothes, got in his hair. He'd need 3 showers and a priest to feel clean again. That's when he saw it. A box on the top shelf, labeled in Sharpie, Santa's Naughty List. His stomach dropped. No way this was real. No way. The box creaked as he pulled it down, years of dust exploding in his face. Inside, the first thing he saw was a pair of cracked glasses, thick Coke bottle lenses, scratched to hell. Still smeared with something. A fingerprint, maybe, or worse. Intrigued, he picked them up gingerly, like they might bite. It had a Christmas gift tag hanging from it reading, "The neighbor who played ABBA on repeat." Next, there was a gold wedding ring, heavy, engraved with "Forever Denise." This one had a tag dangling from it that read, "Hired by Denise to take care of her abusive, cheating husband. She gave me fresh-baked cookies still warm from the oven, too." The box bulged with trophies, Christmas tags swinging off them like tiny glittery alibis. At the bottom, a mall Santa hat, its white fur trim stiff and crusted with something dark brown. Blood? Hot chocolate? Both? His hand hovered over it like touching it might connect him to his father, but he jerked back. His heart pounded in his ears. This was insane. This was nuts. This was impressive. Turns out his father wasn't just a professional at making kids smile. He was a professional at making people disappear. The thing about secrets is they're sticky. Once you hear one, it clings to you like gum on a shoe, no matter how much you scrape. His father's confession wasn't just sticking, it was metastasizing. The more he thought about it, the more he realized his father's life wasn't 2 separate halves. Santa and Hitman, jolly old saint and silent assassin. It was all the same man. And now he was the one holding the bag. His father was dead. The town's favorite mall, Santa, gone to that big workshop in the sky. Kids would cry when they heard. Some mom would bring them to the mall next week, hoping to see his father's stupid twinkly eyes and hear his gravelly laugh. Instead, they'd get some substitute in a cheap suit, the kind who smelled like whiskey and regret. That would be his father's legacy, a hole in the lives of every snot-nosed kid who sat on his lap. Unless he told the truth. If he did, it wouldn't be crying kids. The whole town would lose its collective mind. Imagine this headline. Breaking news. Killer Kringle caught dead. The local paper would have a field day. They'd dig up every photo of his father grinning in his red suit, surrounded by smiling children, and slap it next to words like murderer in bold block letters. The tabloids would pick it up. Every dumb podcaster with a microphone would start calling him the silent Santa Slayer. And him? He'd be the idiot who ruined Christmas for the whole tow. The funeral smelled like peppermint and formaldehyde. Someone decided his father's last ride should look like an after-Christmas clearance aisle. Red and white draped the lid, as if trying to sugarcoat the whole thing. And of course, the mall workers showed up in elf hats. Because nothing says, "We respect your dead father," like polyester and jingling bells. The service started with a speech from Jerry, the guy who managed the mall. Jerry had a voice like a dying accordion and the charisma of wet cardboard, but he tried. He wasn't just Santa, Jerry said, his words wobbling. He was Christmas. He saved Christmas. Saved it? Like he pulled Christmas from a burning building? You mean he sat in a chair for 8 hours a day while toddlers screamed in his face? Then came the slideshow. His father with kids. His father shaking hands. his father eating cookies that probably came with handwritten death requests. And now it was his turn. He stepped up to the podium, clutching his notes. His palms were slick, his mouth dry. Every eyeball in the room locked onto him like he was the halftime show. Here lies Santa, the town legend, and here comes his loser son, fumbling for words. He cleared his throat. Dad was unforgettable, a safe start, too safe. His hands shook. He glanced down at his notes, then up at the crowd. Their faces blurred. His brain buzzed. Because you know, his voice cracked. He was Santa and a hitman. The room froze. A collective gasp sucked all the air out. Then Jerry laughed. The kind of laugh that makes you wonder if someone's choking. Santa? A hitman? More laughter erupted. Next, you'll tell us Rudolph ran a dogfighting ring. He blinked. The crowd thought he was joking. Thank God. He faked a chuckle, the kind that burned his throat on the way out. Yeah, I guess he really killed it as Santa, huh? The groans at his pun covered his slip-up, and he pivoted. Hard. But seriously, Dad was the most unforgettable Santa this town ever had. They clapped. Some people wiped tears. And him? He stared at the casket, wondering what was worse, bearing the truth with his father or walking around with it lodged in his head forever. The funeral was barely over when he found him. A grizzled guy in a trench coat, the kind of face that looked like it had been carved out of driftwood. He shook his hand, his grip hard and dry, and said he knew his father. Frankie, he said, like he should already know who he was. An old associate of your dad's. Associate? What kind of associate? Did Santa have a union? A reindeer mafia? Sorry for your loss, Frankie said, not sounding sorry at all. Your dad was a legend, one of the best in the biz. The biz? He asked, the words tasting like sour milk. Frankie smirked, like he just failed some kind of test. He opened his trench coat, not for a gun or a bomb or a flashing incident, but for a business card. The font was a little too cheerful, a little too Comic Sans for what it said. Kringle and Associates, holiday solutions for your problems. He stared at it like it might bite him. This is a joke, right? Frankie leaned in, breath heavy with something cheap and lethal. Your dad wasn't the only one, he said, his voice like gravel rolled in honey. He pulled a candy cane from his pocket, twisting it between his fingers. Seasonal work. It's got its advantages. Keeps things clean. He paused, watching him, waiting, like there was something he was supposed to say. It's the perfect cover. Frankie smiled, teeth yellowed like a dog just pissed in the snow. He straightened up, sliding his hands into his coat. Your dad always said you'd make a great Santa. You've got the look. His father spent his whole life teaching him things he didn't realize were lessons. How to lie with a smile, how to disappear in a crowd, how to keep secrets. He always thought his father was preparing him for life, but maybe he was just preparing him for this. Frankie's words hung in the air like cigarette smoke, clinging to his skin. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Frankie tipped an imaginary hat and walked away, disappearing into the kind of fog that made him doubt he was ever really there. He looked at the card again, the words staring back like a dare. Kringle and Associates. His father always said to find a job that suits you. But some jobs? Some jobs find you. In the distance, he heard bells, maybe wind chimes, maybe the Salvation Army guy packing up. Who knows? What he did know was that he hated kids, loved cookies, and could probably pull off the beard.